All right. You got anything on Frey Ranch or no?
Frey Ranch.
Frey. Sorry.
Can we at least get the name correct?
Frey Ranch.
Yeah, I did my fucking studies.
All right. Well, you
Because you
weren't
studied
prepared
for an MBA doesn't
you
mean
weren't
that I don't.
prepared for Knob Creek, so
Uh,
I got to check up on you every once in a while. A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
And tonight we are trying... Which way do you say it?
Frey.
Frey Ranch.
Jesus.
I was gonna say that, and then I did I second guess myself.
Didn't you just get like...
What was the other pronunciation?
Fry? Yeah.
He was just talking...
R-E-Y. Frey
Don't mind
Ranch,
me.
folks.
Don't
He was
listen
just
to me.
talking shit in the group chat about how smart he was because he had an MBA now. And he can't even speak English or pronounce words. Like... How humbling is that for you? Just to realize how quickly you realize you know shit, Jake.
I know, I just totally botched my upper hand, so moving on.
Yeah, how did we, why are we talking about Frey Ranch? How did we acquire this?
Yeah, so these, as far as I know, they're only distributed in a limited number of states. They're located in Nevada, so you cannot get it in Illinois currently. But our friend Nikhil was nice enough to pick up a couple of these while he was at a conference, or maybe just having fun in Vegas. I don't know. But he picked up a bottle of their straight bourbon whiskey and their rye for us to sample on the show. So thanks, Nikhil. We appreciate it. And we're excited to try these.
Yeah, so they do ship to 36 states, I found out, because I was wondering where people can get it from, because the one thing I do know about them, or I know a few things about them, I guess. I'll have to explain some of the things. But the first time I ever saw or heard of Frey Ranch was through Facebook marketing. And I'm guessing they spend a shit ton on Facebook marketing, and they do a lot of shipping, I believe. I know you
saw ads in Illinois?
Yeah.
I have two on Instagram.
So they ship to 36 states. I'm not sure if Illinois is one of those 36 states. Illinois is normally a pain to work with, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't get it here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't either, but that's weird that they would be running ads in Illinois then.
Yeah. But as Jake said, they are out of Nevada. They're actually like Tahoe area, so they're not trying. The thing that is going to be very familiar sounding is they are a farm distillery. They don't grow corn in the Nevada desert. They're closer to Tahoe, where there actually is fertile soil and rain and glacier melt for irrigation. They've been on the property. The bottle says established 1854. That's not the distillery. That's when the ranch was started. And when you look into it, they actually started farming in Nevada 10 years before Nevada was a state. I believe they're on their 5th generation farmers there now. They said the main, or the one guy looks like he's in his 40s, and his wife are the ones that started the distillery up on the farm. They grow very similar to what we do with Whiskey Acres. They grow all their own grain on the farm. The one big difference is they actually malt on the farm too. They have their own malting facility there. And they don't just malt barley. They also do, I was reading through some stuff. They have some malted corn, malted rye, malted oats. They do a lot of malting. But they grow everything there. They distill everything there. They age everything there. Looks, from what I saw in pictures, it looks like they started selling whiskey in 2019 locally. In 2020 is when they started selling more to Vegas and to California.
So very new.
Yeah, they're pretty new. They started to similar with us is they let stuff sit for about 4 to 5 years before they started selling their whiskey. So they've never sourced or anything. It's just all their own farm grown stuff. Um, very same thing. They don't call it seed to spirit; they call it soil to spirit. I think.
Who is their distiller? Do they have someone that like came in, or did they just kind of learn how to do it themselves?
I did not
The bottle
see
says it's Colby Frey.
Colby and his wife are the owners. I'm not sure if they have a distiller there. They're a decent sized operation. It looks like they got 1,000-gallon Vendome, still kind of similar to what we have at Whiskey Acres. Ours is 500 gallons, but then they also have a couple of small columns there as well. So they're producing quite a bit from the looks of it. I was watching one thing. They didn't say how much they produced the previous year, but it didn't sound like they were going to change production too much to the following year. I think that was 2021, 2022, so I'm not sure what their plans were for 2023. But I've just been seeing a lot of the advertising for it. Those are kind of the main take-home points from what I saw about them. But it's nice to have these. I mean, they go through the same things that make us unique, as same things make them unique, as they have control over their own grain. They're in charge of all that aspect. They clean it, they mill it, they do everything right there on site. Very, in terms of impact to the environment, things very low impact because everything is all right there.
Yeah, which is probably why we're featuring them on this episode. You don't see many farm distilleries, especially here in the U.S. I mean, do we know how many there are? Does anyone know that?
I don't know. I can try.
Because I think the only two that I know are Whiskey Acres and Frey Ranch. And I'm sure a bunch are going to pop up that I didn't think about, but
it's very popular or very common in wine.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. Most wineries own their vineyards. A lot of them still do source from elsewhere the grapes, but most of them, yes, own their own vineyards and property.
It's all
and also more common in Europe, probably in smaller areas. There's a lot of. Especially like if we really want to talk about farm distilling, there's a lot of backyard like brandy distilling, and I'm pretty sure it's legal for like anyone in Germany to start distilling as long as it's something they grew. So that's a ton. There's a ton of people doing that. It's either Germany or France, maybe, I don't know. Fact checked me, whatever. I just found out we were talking about Frey Ranch 2 minutes before we started recording. So I have no research done about this.
Yeah, it's they don't really have like a easy number that's coming up on Google. It'd probably be a little bit of a research project. Jake, you finished your MBA. Go ahead and do that as your next research project for us. Thanks.
Yeah. You don't do research projects for your MBA, Dan, so nice try.
No. Well, you got time to do it now, so you might as well. You got nothing else going on in your life that would take any time away from you. So, but no, they're, again, like when you look at the bottle, the topper looks kind of like a bolt, like a big bolt on the top. I think that's what they're going for. The problem is bolts are 6-sided, and that's more than 6 sides on there.
It's heavy as shit.
Yeah, I was going to say, it reminds me of like a Castle and Key topper. It's a big, wide, and it's heavy, which is nice. Like it kind of subconsciously makes you think it's better quality when you take off that cap and it's a heavy cap and solid.
Yeah.
They spend a lot. You can tell they spent some time and money on their glass because the bottle does look beautiful. It's got their logo on it and things.
It's got a nice thick bottom. It's got a lot of detail in the glass. The bottom says the Frey Ranch Estate, 5 generations of farming, Nevada, when they're established, and then their slogan around the like rim of the bottom. So it's really, really nice bottles.
But yeah, I mean, I've only really seen stuff on Facebook for probably the last few months, which obviously, if they're expanding in things, makes sense. I did see they do have like one really pretty rick house that looks very like the old style Kentucky way of holding barrels in the wood racks. And they built it inside of a barn. But it looks like they built that as a really nice showpiece, and then everything else is vertically aged on pallets, which is fine. I've seen more and more of that in Kentucky.
Well, it's kind of more new age. Just to chime in about the palate aging, Diageo, who is one of the, I would say, big three names in the liquor world, they did a whole study on palate aging versus traditional rickhouse aging, and their conclusion was there was absolutely no difference in the taste of the whiskey, and it's much safer and space efficient to age on pallets than it is
way easier to move stuff
in
around.
ricks. Yeah, we just use forklifts, just stack them right on there. I guess you get like the same amount of surface area, so there's really no difference. But yeah.
So I think they made that nice one, made it look real pretty, and then they realized probably how big of a pain in the ass it is to do everything the old style in the old ricks, and they're like, you know what, this makes a lot more sense. Let's do it this way. Which is perfectly fine because
the ricks look much cooler. Nobody's going to deny that. Like, you walk into a distillery, that's what you expect. It's kind of a bummer when you walk in and you see them all stacked on pallets, even though it really doesn't matter.
And then Jake would be mad because when you're having on pallets and stuff, you definitely don't need a drill to drill in to be able to get stuff out. Like, it just ruins Jake's whole experience on things. But no. So we lost Jake.
We lost Jake. Speaking of Jake.
That's never good.
Oh, were you speaking of me? Yeah, that's not good at all.
No, you're still here. Mr. Research Project is gone.
What were you saying before we were rudely interrupted?
We were talking about how when you walk in and the barrels are on pallets instead of a rick, it's a little bummer, but it really doesn't matter, and it makes it much harder to, or you can't. There's really no reason to drill because you can just pop the bung off the top. Or just go right in from the top and thief out the whiskey.
Yeah. But no, it looks like a pretty large distillery. Like I said, I wish I knew what the volume they were doing is. They do mainly
craft
bourbon
distillery, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
So under, what was the threshold that we talked about a couple episodes? Episode 65-ish?
I thought it was like...
Was it?
No, it was like
750,000
proof gallons, or 750,000 gallons or less.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, okay.
It was an obnoxiously large number.
Yeah.
They're still craft by quite a ways. It looks like mainly bourbon and rye. They do a lot of experimental stuff right now too. It seems like they're doing a lot with oat. It sounds like they have a 5 grain with oat on it. They have some malted oat stuff they're doing. It sounds like a lot of that isn't meant to hit the mainstream market. That's all just going out of the distillery doors for when people are there, and I'm sure they're getting feedback to see if anything they want to do start producing more. There was a lot I saw with oat, which is making me think that they probably grow a lot of oat and probably have a good oat growing environment out there if they're pushing that, because obviously you can grow all these grains basically anywhere with a temperate climate that you want to, but certain grains grow better in certain microclimates than others. So I'm just guessing with seeing a lot of oat that they must have a pretty good oat crop out there, and they're trying to figure out other ways to incorporate that into the distillery.
Which, if that's true, and I'm sure it is, like, I'm sure they have always grown oat. I mean, that's what you need to do, to stand out as a distillery. You need to do something different, and they're jumping on what they know, and what they've probably done, or else I don't see why they would start doing all this experimentation with oat. So props on them on sticking to what they know and doing something to help them stand out against all these other craft distilleries that are starting up. Not that being a farm distillery isn't already enough, right. But maybe that's why there's a lot of hype and excitement on Frey Ranch, because I know I've gotten at least 5 or 6 requests in the store for it, even though they're not even in the state yet.
God, Facebook marketing, man.
I don't know. I haven't seen any Facebook ads yet, and I see ads for everything. So maybe it's because you're so close to Iowa, you're getting those ads spilling over.
Close to Iowa. Jesus, you were just down here the other week.
I know, it's far out there. I'm already pretty far west from Chicago, and you're another 50 minutes.
I love you guys. You're like 30 miles west of Chicago, and you think you're in Iowa. Like, your concept of the state is just so great. God, I was down in the south suburbs yesterday. Might as well have been in Alabama.
For real.
Jesus.
I mean, that would explain the ads. Jake, are you getting ads for Frey Ranch?
Yeah, I am.
Ah, come on. You're supposed to say no.
Oh, and he's farther east than you, Jake.
I know.
God. This is like Roberto all over again, who said, where do you think I was? Like somewhere out in Kentucky or Kansas or Oklahoma or wherever. And that was when I was in Island Lake.
Jesus.
But
let's dive into the bourbon. So it's a 4-grain mash bill.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to give you the information on it?
They've got it on the bottle.
Oh, nice.
So it's 66.6 yellow dent corn, 10% winter wheat, 11.4% winter rye, and 12% 2-row barley malted on site.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
tell us about that corn, Dan.
Yeah, that's the normal, basic bitch corn, right?
It's the normal corn. It's your normal corn, what you see whenever you're about. Well, if you're driving from Jake's house to Jake's house, you're going to go by some cornfields, because Gold Eagle Jake lives almost to Wyoming, with as far west as he is from the city.
Further out than Island Lake, but not as far as DeKalb out there.
No.
Not too much farther. You're about straight north of me there, bud.
A little west.
Yeah, a little. The corn is just normal field corn, yellow dent field corn. That's what the majority of whiskeys are made out of. That's what our bourbon is made out of as well.
Mm-hmm.
I
haven't tasted it yet. I'm just nosing it. But like I don't think this is the most accurate description, but it's the first thing that popped in my mind. It kind of smells like Christmas to me. I don't know why.
What messed up Christmas do you go to?
Did you have gin in your glass before this?
No. But it smells like...
It smells like butter cookies.
Yes. That's what it is. Like butter cookies in like a tin that you get at Christmas time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like no frosting, just straight little circular. The ones that you put on your fingers, you know?
Like the ones that come in the cheap gift baskets you get when someone wants to get you a gift basket.
I'm talking about the old butter cookies, the ones you find in your grandmother's cookie jar.
Yeah.
And you stick them on your fingers. They're like little rings.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of smells like.
Mm-hmm. About break your teeth when you bite in.
Definitely a little fruit too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I get a lot of the fruit notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
This was 90 proof, and 4 years. I think they said a lot of their first stuff is actually is more of an average of 5 years, because they were going to release it after 4 years, and the bottle took longer to get, so stuff sat for longer. Mm-hmm. I get the fruitier nose, the apple. There's kind of like that black currant almost in it.
Yeah, I was going to say like a little bit of berry.
It's more like it's not like Granny Smith apple though. It's like a red apple of some sort.
And then I kind of get a little spice on the back of the palate and more on the finish. So that's probably your Christmas coming through right there, full circle.
Yeah, that's good. Probably because like this is pretty decent rye and wheat combined. I mean, even the malted barley is pretty high content.
Yeah, I mean, so I was going to say it almost like reminds me of a lighter version of Old Elk.
The 4-grain Old Elk, yeah.
No, just the
regular,
just the standard. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe like a combination of the 4-grain and the standard, but the high barley content, just with how mellow the palate is, and I think that's where that fruit is coming in. Yeah. So
I get some of the grain on the palate. Not saying this in a bad way because it's a similar flavor profile that we have. You get kind of a little bit of a dusty cornish note on the palate, which is the grains coming out there a little bit.
It's definitely tempered a bit because you can definitely taste the rye and the wheat. I'm trying to pick up the barley note like by itself, but I'm mostly getting the corn, the rye, and the wheat. There's a little bit of that, like the wheat is a little spicy, but it's like slightly different than the rye spice.
Jake, I think when you said Old Elk, I'm not saying this is a similar flavor profile, but it has a similar feeling where it's as easier drinking whiskey. I mean, it's a pretty quick finish. It doesn't stick around too long. It's not an offensive flavor at all. It's just a light, easy drinking whiskey.
Yeah, I guess like the body or the just general vibe, it kind of reminds me of the Old Elk. Because you really do. I taste a lot of that malt, a lot of that barley. But yeah, and I mean, this is a 4-year bourbon, which is pretty obviously young for a bourbon. And I kind of cheated a little bit, and I tasted their rye, and I think their rye is a lot better. So that gives me hope that the bourbon's going to only improve once it hits that 6-7 year mark.
Didn't you guys cheat the other week on Knob 18 too?
Yeah.
I didn't. Jake did. But this was an accidental cheat. I told you literally like 30 minutes before this podcast, I asked my girlfriend to give me a blind pour, and she never pulls from my sample bottles, only from full bottles. But this time she happened to pick a Frey Ranch, and it was the rye. And I really, really enjoyed it. I was all over the place on my guesses, but that's because I'd never had Frey Ranch before. And I guess we'll talk about the rye a little bit more in a second, but that's kind of fate that she just happened to grab the little sample of Frey Ranch and poured it. And I didn't even know we were going to talk about this tonight.
I'm the only honest person on the podcast. And if that's the case, that's not saying much about the honesty of our podcast.
Are you saying that wasn't true?
No, I'm just saying you cheated. Jake cheated the week before. I'm the only honest guy.
God.
And are we supposed to get on here and taste it for the first time together?
We get everything else. We do everything else for the first time.
Oh, do we?
Are we planned? Like as we get in the chat room?
Did you not taste the 7-year before the Whiskey Acres podcast?
Well, it was at work. We were tasting it at work.
The only honest person you're.
I'm sorry. I put the people that pay me to do my job in front of the podcast. I'm sorry about that.
All right, so we all had one moment where we cheated a little bit.
All right, so any like overall impressions on the bourbon before we jump over to the rye?
I'm gonna say from the bourbon, going back to the craft episode, you can tell it's a newer, smaller distillery by the flavor profile because it's not quite there yet. It's not bad. It's not offensive. It's a good starting point. But, I mean, this is one of their first releases. And I'm going to dive in and see if I can't find out who their master distiller is or if it is the owner. But same thing with us and all new distilleries is it takes a little bit to keep tweaking after you taste it. I think you can tell it's from the bourbon. You can tell it's craftier. But I think it's got a good base. I think it's a solid whiskey through and through.
I don't think it's definitely not underdeveloped, and they definitely didn't rush and put something out too fast. But I think there's a ton of room for improvement, and this is a really solid base. And I do think it's going to be cool to go back and taste this in 2-3 years and see how far they've come. Because I think their stuff is only going to get better and better as they start layering in some older stuff and start tweaking a few things here and there with their mash bill and their barrels.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's very smooth, very easy drinking. The grains definitely shine through. I am not really a fan of 4-grain whiskey in general. It's just like too flat in flavor for me a lot of times. But like this one's pretty good. If somebody was looking for something really smooth, really easy, I'd probably offer them this.
Looking through LinkedIn, there's a guy that works at Frey Ranch with the name of Russell Wedlake, whose title is VP of Operations, Master Distiller, Certified Crop Advisor, and Maltster. So like any small business, wears a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, props to him.
Yeah.
Like, what's your title? Assistant Distiller, Inventory Specialist, Logistics Manager.
Yeah. Basically, what I started out as my last company. Yeah. I don't do anything over there. The girls that handle that side.
You did last Friday, you liar.
For a special event for YouTube, which required zero work or effort on my part. I made a stupid little thing in 5 minutes on Google Sheets that tried to mimic your tasting mats for your blind tastings, and that was my input for that. So,
all right.
No,
so
I don't want to do anything on the visitor center side. The 3 ladies that run that do a fantastic job. I stay out of their hair.
So nose on the rye.
This is the one that I got given to blind, and I knew it was lower in proof because I could tell by the color, and it wasn't really offensive on the nose. And I thought it was Eagle Rare, and actually, after I tasted it too, it tasted like a Bacta bottle that I have. That's like it's a blend of rye whiskey and Armagnac.
So I can see the Armagnac on the nose.
Yeah, I got a ton of fruit on this one, and it tasted finished, which is weird because this is a straight rye, right?
100% rye.
It almost tasted like a Calvados finish or some kind of brandy influence on the finish, or that there was a brandy finish of some sort.
Yeah. So to me, I agree with your notes on the nose. The only thing that like tells me that this is a rye in any way is like there's that little bit of like mint kind of smell, or like
I mean, that's impressive that you picked it up on the nose, because I don't really get it on the nose, but on the palate more. The nose kind of is more like bourbon forward to me. It's a little sweeter. But then as soon as I sip it, you get a little bit of that dill, a little bit of that mint, and then definitely a little bit of that spice that you would get from a rye whiskey. But still a ton of fruit. And I would like, if you told me this was a rye finished in an Armagnac barrel, I'd say, yeah, that's spot on. Great job with the finish.
I will say that I get a lot of dill on the palate and on the finish on this one. And that's not the rye flavor that I enjoy.
That's interesting. I don't get that at all.
I definitely picked up on the dill. That was the dill and the mint were like the first 2 things that I got.
I'm trying to get the mint since you guys said that. I am not. I am not good with dill, and it's cutting through. And is the first thing I noticed. I'm having a hard time blocking it out mentally now. But again, ryes aren't my favorite, and I get on the nose. I'm picking it up now, even too. It's in my head. I gotta clear my head, but this isn't the style of rye that I enjoy. but there's a limited amount of rye that I enjoy.
To me, it's a lot of mint. I'm not getting the dill. It almost reminds me of like menthol. Oddly, I don't know why, but that's kind of what it like is sparking.
It just has that like herby vibe, like herby, minty, dilly, maybe rosemary. Like just went out to the garden and rubbed your hands through a bunch of different crops and then smelled them, and it's just kind of like a mesh of a bunch of different herbs. And
yeah, but I mean, I'm getting a lot of like bourbon-y kind of flavors too. Like there's definitely some like vanilla and like
complemented by a lot of sweetness and definitely a lot of fruit. That's why I want to go get that Bacta bottle because I think this tastes almost identical to what I remember of that bottle, and it is a blend of rye whiskey and Armagnac.
Now I'm getting the dill.
Are you?
Right. Yeah, now I am.
I'm getting it like right at the far back of the palate, and it's just sitting there, and it's not sitting well with me because of that. This isn't anything against their rye. This is just the style of rye that I don't enjoy. It's still not nearly as bad as the piggyback that we did a long time ago. Yeah, this isn't. I'm having troubles with this one in terms of enjoying it.
I will back that up by saying that I really enjoy this, and I like it a lot better than their bourbon. And the more I sip on this, the more I'm noticing different notes that I like, and the flavor kind of lingers. But I can definitely see where Dan's coming from because we talk about this all the time. There's so many different styles of rye, and this definitely falls into like that dilly, minty, herby rye where that can be very offensive to some people. So I'm not this for sure isn't the rye for everyone, but if you do kind of like that herby, earthy, minty rye, then I think you should seek this bottle out. And what is do we know like what the MSRP is on these?
They're all around $50, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I think so. For to bottle, I would say these are completely worth it. I would say grab a bourbon to save and taste. You know how compared to how their bourbon's going to be in a couple of years, but this rye is drinking great right now.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm not picky about my types of rye. I think it's definitely not in the same area as like the MGP rye. It's more it kind of reminds me of the Blom Brothers rye a little bit. But the Blom Brothers isn't this like herby. Blom Brothers I think is a little more peppery. But this is good. I do enjoy this rye. It's pretty nice. It's at 100 proof,
and I probably
so I think that helps it a
bit. Yeah,
it was Bib, wasn't it?
Was it bottled bond?
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I should add too, like part of the reason why I really like this is because it is very unique and different than most ryes that I have had. It kind of reminds me of this Old Elk 8-year sour mash single barrel that we just picked that we're supposed to get in a couple weeks, just from the fruit presence of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like that? We better get this episode on air. But no, we picked that Old Elk barrel just because of how off profile and how fruity and unique it was, and this definitely reminds me of that. Like that Old Elk barrel tastes like it was finished in Armagnac. That's what I think of when I try this rye.
Mm-hmm.
So,
if you do, if you are interested in buying Frey Ranch, the rye or the bourbon, it looks like Caskers has Illinois availability on it.
Yeah, just wait a couple months. Gold Eagle will get it. You can just buy it.
Ooh. Ooh.
I mean, I would assume if they're selling online in Illinois, it's only a matter of time before they get into the state.
Yeah.
You know?
Got to start lobbying.
Yeah. If you can't wait, go ahead, buy online. But, you know, we got plenty of whiskey in stock right now. You can tide yourself over until the Frey Ranch stuff comes.
If you can, support a small local business. Go to Gold Eagle.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Got you. Yeah, this is exciting. I'm excited to see what some of their other stuff and to see how their stuff continues to grow. I think the bourbon for me has a really good base to it. I think it's a really good starter bourbon. It's not. I would drink this without hesitation. The rye just not my style. Nothing against them at all. I am a big fan of what they're doing with the farm distillery side of things. Since I get to work at one every day, it's nice to see more people that have the same passion for the agriculture side of it, and then learn the whiskey side and continue to make and get better and better and better. But looks like a nice, cool facility to go out and visit too. So if you're out in Tahoe area, I would say it'd probably be worth a visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some family out there. Next time I go out there, which hopefully is going to be this winter to snowboard, I'm going to have to hit that up.
I don't think they have a ski in like you can at High West.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all right. I can do the distillery one day. I'll do the mountains the next day.
Make sure to do the mountains before the distillery so you don't Sonny Bono yourself.
I won't. Don't worry. I'm pretty experienced.
Nice. Anything else on the Frey Ranch side of things, guys?
No, I think Jake summed it up pretty well. They're both, I think, worth the price.
Yeah.
Especially if you or someone you know is looking for something that's a little bit lower proof for the bourbon, easy drinking, and if you're looking for something really interesting with the rye, they're both really good options.
Yeah, and I mean, to talk about the farm to bottle thing again, I always think that's super cool. It's one thing to know how to distill. It's one thing to know how to grow the crops. For one place to do it all under one roof at one location, I think is very impressive. So I think that definitely added to how much I enjoyed these, just for the fact that they grew everything and then distilled it and then let it age all just with them, all hands on. I think is pretty cool. So,
yep.
Nice. All right. Well, on that note, Jake, I know it's not at Gold Eagle now, but if people want to see what else they can buy in the meantime.
Yep. goldeaglewine.com. We stream our whole inventory. Whatever we have in store shows up online. So you can buy and get delivery within 15 miles, or we'll hold it forever until you can make it in and pick it up. Follow us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine and Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits. And I think that is enough for Gold Eagle.
Nice. Jake, where can they listen?
You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on Spotify or YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at Bourbon Matters. And then you can email us at just bourbonmatters@gmail. Jesus, I'm having a rough day. You can go to our website, www.bourbonmatterspodcast.com. That's where
www.bourbonmatterspodcast.com.
Nobody includes the www anymore. Yeah. Come on.
Whatever. Go to bourbonmatterspodcast.com.
How many episodes do you want to do today? Jeez.
Yeah, this is part 1 of 2 episodes we had for record tonight, so this is going to be fun.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun. I'll enjoy trying farm distilleries all the time, so that was nice.
Yeah, this is cool. Definitely cool to see another one.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, guys.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.